Good morning and welcome back to the Degen crew. Let's do a quick wellness shot to wake up this morning. Here we go. Ginger and turmeric. Ooh, that's good stuff. Really, it's really sour. If that didn't wake you up, this sure will. SpaceX IPO. Today should be a holiday. There's been so much talk and so much news about this IPO. It is Friday, so probably no one's working. Everyone's watching this upcoming IPO. Probably the most talked about IPO in history. It is one of the biggest IPOs in the world, or is going to be the biggest IPO by market cap. Oh, I need some water after that. So literally going to be the biggest IPO in history. Right now, I think it is the share price is supposed to open up 135 per share. It's supposed to raise $75 billion. It is 3.5 times oversubscribed. So if you don't know what that means, 3.5 times oversubscribed means SpaceX is trying to raise $75 billion, and there is $250 billion of money that's trying to buy $75 billion worth of shares. And they're supposed to be at $135. That would give it a market cap of about 1.7 trillion dollars. So I've been using So at $135 a share, a $1.7 trillion market cap. I've been looking at Polymarket to see where I could place some predictions on this. Originally, I had bought the over 2 trillion and 2.2 trillion, but what I've been using is I've been using Hyperliquid. Currently, the price, so Hyperliquid, if you buy and sell the shares on Hyperliquid, you don't actually own the share. You don't actually have any voting rights for the share. You're just getting exposure to the actual price movement. This has been listed for almost 2 or 3 weeks now. So the share price here on Hyperliquid is $170 a share. I think it got all the way up to 230 and then came back down to 170. But at 170, it puts at around a $2.3 trillion market cap. So I was buying above the 2 trillion, the 2.2. I ended up selling it out and just taking profit and rolling it over to the 2.4. So I was buying this around 26 cents and it's already up to 51 cents. I put a small prediction in at 2.6 trillion. But my plan is as soon as the shares open today, no matter what the price is, I'm going to just sell out of the 2.4 trillion. And I would hold on to the 2.6. I also bought a little bit of downside protection. So at 1.75 trillion, when the shares open up, if the share price falls, I bought a tiny bit here for pretty cheap, around 18 cents. That covers most of my upside prediction or my upside bet. My theory around that is if the share price starts to fall, I think it will. I think it'll fall pretty quickly. And I think it'll get to around the IPO price that it opened at. I also bought some brackets. I don't love the brackets because it sort of caps you on the upside, meaning that if, for example, let's see. So again, I bought these a little bit cheaper, but what I mean is it sort of caps you. So this one I bought between 2 and 2.5, and I bought 2.5 to 3. But for example, if it got above 3, it would mean both of these lose. So when SpaceX goes public today, they have a pretty low float. They're actually only selling 4% of the company, um, but it's a huge IPO, so they're selling a low float, but they're raising $75 billion. So it's a low float, but lots of money. When I've watched IPOs in the past, the low floats have the potential to pop a lot. So that's why I was sort of buying out of the money, combining that with Hyperliquid as well. But yeah, I don't love the brackets because if it, for example, popped above 3.0 or was below 2.0, like the most under, I'd say one of the things the market's not pricing in, or these predictions aren't pricing in, are if it stays at like 1.9 trillion. So if it hit 1.9 trillion, I would lose the 2 and I would lose the 3. I would lose these 2 brackets. And same thing, if it went above 3 trillion, I would lose the 2 brackets. So based on that, my game plan is also, if there's an initial pop right out of the market and this came down to like 5 cents, I'd be adding this bracket, the 1.5 to 2 trillion, right away, just to have that bracket as well. Right now, my total price with these 2 brackets is 68 cents. So I bought this for a combined 68 cents. That's why it's not worth adding this one right now. That would put me almost at 80 cents. But yeah, I've been looking for this to come down. It's already come down 40%, but I'd be looking for it to come down a little bit more, or right on an initial pop. So my game plan, buy into this on an initial pop and sell out of the 2.4 on an initial pop as well. So no one on the internet, there's been hundreds of interviews. Again, it's the most talked about IPO. No one on the internet seems to be able to say with conviction whether or not to buy or sell this IPO. One of the things I was looking at, I was using as a little bit of a comp on this. I know it's not the same, but I went back and looked at the Alibaba IPO. So the Alibaba IPO had an initial pop on their first day of trading of about 35%. And that one was about 17% oversubscribed, and also had a medium float. They sold about 17% of their shares. So if I'm taking the SpaceX and going, okay, they're only selling 4% of their company and it's 3.5% oversubscribed, that brings it pretty close to a 17% oversubscribed when you're doing a comparison to Alibaba. So I'm actually pricing this in, if there is a pop, to about 35%, and that's 35% above the Hyperliquid price, what I'm using right now as its base, or 35% above the $135. And that brings me right around where all those brackets kind of line up. It puts me around that $2.3 trillion mark. If this thing pops like 100% on the first day, then I'm above that $3 trillion mark and I lose those brackets. But I think as it pops, if it even popped above that 3 trillion, my 2.6 and my 2.4 would also pop right away, and I would just lock in the profits on those as well. So yeah, no one on the internet's been able to say where this thing is it a buy, fundamentally is it a buy, or is it a sell. What I think people would do though, and one of the reasons why the price on Hyperliquid might be capped, is because the biggest purchases on Hyperliquid have actually been shorts. And people have been saying on the internet, oh, the shorts are making the most money so far on Hyperliquid, shorting SpaceX. But what they're not saying is that they're potentially shorting SpaceX on Hyperliquid because they already own shares in the private market, and this is a way to lock in prices for them. So for example, if they were shorting this when this went up to $230 a share, if you already owned one share at $100 and it was up to $230 here and you shorted one share here, technically yes, if this on Hyperliquid or on IPO day, the share price goes way up, you're net zero, you're net even, you have the upside and the downside, you technically locked in your share price at $200 a share. So I think the smart money out there has started using, because not everyone knows about Hyperliquid. Yes, it's a huge exchange, but not there's not a ton of investors necessarily using it. But I think the smart money out there, if they wanted to hedge their bet or they wanted to lock in their price, they would potentially have already shorted the Hyperliquid SpaceX price, which means there would have been a lot of short pressure on here, pushing the share price down. And that's one of the reasons why it might have stalled out around this $177 mark. What'll be interesting to see is at the IPO open if it just jumps right away to the 177, 179, and this will be for the future. We'll see how accurate Hyperliquid is at pricing markets before they're even launched, which I find is really cool. So all that to say, I have the predictions open. SpaceX IPO. If you want to get exposure to price, you can buy it right now on Hyperliquid, even though it's not open yet on traditional markets. The IPO hasn't even launched yet. If you want other exposure to price, you can predict a market cap on Polymarket. But today will be the SpaceX holiday. Thank you guys. Enjoy the show.